A brutal crime under the guise of a cultural custom is taking place in Australia. The perpetrators are mostly women and their victims are young girls. Some call it female circumcision, but in truth it is genital mutilation. It's practiced widely in parts of Africa, the Middle East and Asia, but it's also happening here. Tonight, 3 brave women speak up against the practice in this investigation by Caro Meldrum-Hanna, under warning it contains graphic language and disturbing scenes.
It was mid-morning in the city of Pune, 200 kilometres south of Mumbai, India. Inside one house, a young girl, eager for the day to begin.
Like every weekend, we just were at my grandma's house, and she just came to me and said, "Oh, we have to go somewhere, we're going to the market," and it was exciting.
Zareen, a boisterous, energetic tomboy, was 5 years old. She had no way of knowing she'd never reach the markets that her grandmother had promised. Instead, she was taken to a house.
There were about 3 other women there, and they were sitting and chatting, and they were from the same community because they were speaking the language. They asked me to take my underwear off. I just wanted to run out of there. I knew there was something going to happen to me.
Deceived by her own grandmother, Zareen was trapped.
I don't know if it was 2 of the women or just one. She pinned me down with her legs. I had my legs wide open, and one of them was holding my hands behind me. And I don't remember seeing anything, but after that I felt a very sharp pain. I still remember that, and I remember really yelling and crying. I remember seeing the faces of the women, and they were like, "Oh, it's okay, it'll be over, it's fine, you're gonna get new underwear, you're gonna get new underwear." And I remember thinking, I don't care. I still, till today, I can think that I don't care about the new underwear, just let me go. I still remember that pain.
Like almost all of the girls belonging to her Muslim community, Zareen had become a victim to a barbaric custom, carried out by women against girls aged between 4 to 10 years old. In her country, it's called traditional cutting. In Australia, it's called female genital mutilation. So the women who cut you, they weren't doctors?
No, definitely not.
Who were they?
No idea, just some women, maybe midwives.
Zareen comes from a Muslim sect known as the Dawoodi Bohras, now predominantly based in India. Shia Muslims, they are educated, conservative and very private. Since moving to Australia 6 years ago, Zareen is determined to speak out against what happened to her.
I do feel strongly about it, that it's wrong and it needs to be stopped.
Female genital mutilation is a crime in Australia and it's not sanctioned in the Quran. Nonetheless, it's happening behind closed doors.
I can say the procedures occurred in metropolitan Sydney and metropolitan areas. I believe they are undertaken under some medical conditions.
5 weeks ago, New South Wales Police made a breakthrough, arresting and charging 8 people with the alleged genital mutilation of 2 young girls in Sydney and Wollongong in the past 18 months. The arrests follow an anonymous tip-off to the office of the Family and Community Services Minister, Prue Goward.
The secrecy with which this is carried out often makes it very difficult for police to collect sufficient evidence. It is unlikely that this is an isolated incident.
The 8 people arrested all belong to the Dawoodi Bohra community in New South Wales, represented by this quiet prayer hall in the Western Sydney suburb of Auburn. The identities of those arrested have been suppressed, except for one.
Police have accused a 68-year-old retired nurse of performing the procedures.
Her name is Kubra McGuinness. Kubra, I think you're home. This is Caro Meldrum-Hanna from the ABC. 7:30 tracked her down at her home in southwest Sydney. She wouldn't come to the door. I've been trying to get in touch with you to have a discussion. There are fears that the practice of female genital mutilation, or FGM, spreads much wider than this one case suggests. In September, Western Australian police arrested and charged a couple after they allegedly took their daughter to Bali for a traditional cutting ceremony. 7:30 has also been told that girls are being mutilated in the town of Katanning, 300 kilometres south of Perth, home to a large Malaysian Muslim population. Do you believe that female genital mutilation is being carried out in Australia?
Without a doubt. I have met individual sisters who in fact have mentioned this to me themselves. Unfortunately, many of them are seeking a kind of a counsel rather than me having any capacity to in fact take the matter any further than that.
The definition of this idea of spirituality.
Afroz Ali is one religious leader prepared to break the silence.
I have had people who have mentioned that in fact that it has happened to themselves, it may have happened to someone in their family, or they're in fact aware that this in fact is happening in Australia.
Where is it happening?
Somewhere underground. It is a very clandestine practice.
7:30 understands that the women chosen to do the cutting often don't have any medical qualifications, and the procedures are being carried out in people's homes using crude surgical implements. It's also common for the women doing the cutting to charge a fee for their services.
The figure could be as much as $2,000 to $3,000. The reality is the fact that they are not qualified at all. These are women from a village who have now migrated, for example, to Australia, who have access to a razor blade and are considered to be elder or a wise person in their community.
This vision records the mutilation of a young girl in Kenya. Often done in the belief it will curb a woman's sexual desires and increase her marriageability, the procedure can range from a small cut to the girl's clitoris to the entire removal of the genitals. In extreme cases, the wound is sewn up, leaving only one opening, the size of a matchstick, for urination and menstruation. There are 120,000 migrant women now living in Australia who have suffered female genital mutilation abroad, and more are arriving every year. Here at the Royal Women's Hospital in Melbourne, a discreet clinic is transforming lives, reversing extreme forms of genital mutilation. Mari Jones heads the clinic. She has more than 20 years' experience as a nurse.
When they tell their story, it's heartbreaking. They've been through things that... Sorry. These women have been through an experience that we can't even imagine. They may spend days after the procedure where they can hardly urinate. They may have had their legs tied together so that the labia actually fuses together.
Through dedicated family planning officers like Zainab Mohammed, the broader aim in Victoria is to break the cycle of mothers subjecting their daughters to the procedure.
Some of the people still they cannot move away from that culture. They think like it's ancestors do it. And there's one other thing, the people, especially the Western people, they think that men reinforce and pushes, especially when it comes to the Africans, and that's not the case. So the women, older women, are the ones who are pushing it.
Zainab Mohammed took us to the tall Housing Commission towers here in Flemington, where we found more women, victims of genital mutilation abroad. One was prepared to speak to us on the condition her face was not shown.
It's a torture, basically. It's hard to discuss this issue, to be honest. Yeah, it's not easy, so... Yeah.
Samira has undergone surgery to reverse the procedure. But disturbingly, she reveals that some women in traditional communities in Victoria are being stitched closed again after they have given birth, even though it's a criminal offence.
So what are you told?
I was told, whether I wanted to be stitched back or not, and I refused. And she said because some women insist on, my midwife told me that some women do insist on, having to be stitched back. And so I was quite surprised, yeah.
Today, Samira is strongly against the cutting of young girls. Not everyone in her community agrees.
Are there women here in Australia that would still get their daughters circumcised?
I think a lot of people will still like to do it. They've been brainwashed by their families. It's good for you, it's important, it's part of our culture. If you leave it now, what will happen to the next year? It's all depends on the culture, the family, the religion background they come from. You can't convince everybody to
think like you do.
To think like you do, absolutely, yes, yes.
In many cases, because of fear, because of shame, because of cultural misconceptions, many of these females will not come out and talk to the police. And that's one of very difficult part of this entire sad saga.
Zareen is now finding her voice. Tonight at her weekly singing lesson, Zareen sings about lost love and forgiveness.
Today I know I'm in control of my life, the person who I am and my decisions, but that is something that will always stay with me, that I couldn't do anything about it for myself.
If you have information about the people who perpetrate those crimes, please go to the police. Cara Meldrum, Hannah reporting.